Listen as your days unfold. Challenge what your future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard. You gotta be tough. Got to be stronger. Gotta be cool. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. Gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. Hear what your mama said. Read the books your daddy read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own time. Some may have more cash than you. Others take a different view. My, oh my, yeah. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough. Got to be stronger. You gotta be cool. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. Gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. Time asks no questions. It goes on without you, leaving you behind if you cannot stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning. Can't stop it if you try to. The best part is danger, staring you in the face. Ooh, listen as your days unfold. Challenge what your future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. The lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up, be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. No, you gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard. You gotta be tough. Got to be stronger. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. Gotta stay together. All I know is love don't save the day. 'Cause I know what I know. I know.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Open Heart Spiritual Center virtual service. And thank you for joining us. And just so grateful for this week, this crisp fall week that we've had, and for all the hustle and bustle and about that has been going on for this week. And just allowing ourselves to take a deep breath in, releasing this breath, and centering ourselves in this moment, in each moment. Being grateful and thankful for this time that we have together, being open and receptive to what it is that we've come here to know this day. Even if we've just come here to be present in the gathering virtually of our Open Heart Spiritual Center family. And if you're joining us for the first time, we say that once you're a guest and twice you're family. So welcome. And just allowing ourselves to just be present right here and right now, ready and open and receptive for the message, blessing the messenger and all that have taken a part in today's service. And I am just so grateful for this community. I'm grateful for the message that we send out into the world and that you're a part of it. And I just give great thanks for this time that we have here together, knowing that it is all so well. And together we say, and so it is.
Today's a new day, but where are my blue skies? Where is the love and the joy that was promised? You tell me it's alright. I almost gave up, but a power that I can't explain fell from heaven like a shower now. Today's a new day, but tell me where are my blue skies? Where is the love and the joy that was promised? You tell me it's alright. I almost gave up, but a power that I can't explain fell from heaven like a shower now. right now. I smile, even though it hurts me, I smile. I know God is working, so I smile. Even though I've been here for a while, I smile, smile. It's so hard to look up when you're down. Sure would hate to see you give up now. You look so much better when you smile, so smile. You look so much better when you 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 smile.
See, I just don't want you to be happy, but then you gotta have something happy. I want you to have joy, cause can't nobody take that from you. I see you. Smile.
Yeah, that's an acquired experience.
What comes from the heart reaches the heart. Good morning and welcome to our Heartstream for this Sunday, October the 23rd, 2022. Yes, October the 23rd, 2022. It seems like the month is flying by. I saw someone post the other day saying, slow down, October. I still haven't decided who's going to cook what for Thanksgiving. But we know that the days and the weeks do oftentimes seem to fly by. I always want to welcome you to our Heartstream and for your being a part of this, for all that you do with your prayers, with your energy, with your contributions, with everything else that you do to make this Heartstream and the message that comes from it, whether it's through our music, whether it's through our centering, our evocations, the affirmative reading, the message, whatever else it is that goes out and touches people in places that we often aren't aware of. I know that just the other day, I got a communication from someone that I had no idea watched our Heartstream. And they started off by talking about what comes from the heart reaches the heart, and then went on to say how meaningful they found our Heartstream to be for their lives. So thank you for all that you do. And in the spirit of that, when you have the opportunity, if you would share the fact of our Heartstreams, if you're on social media, you can use the share button to share it, to let others know, because the announcement about the upcoming topic on Sundays is usually out either usually early Saturday morning, and you can share it so that your friends can see it. And even if you're on Facebook, for example, you can also share when it streams live. You also can press the like button, click the like button on either YouTube or Facebook, and that helps to generate more and more traffic for us to increase getting the message out. And again, thank you for all that you do. Ask that you would continue to contribute. There's information about how you can make contributions and give your gifts to help us to continue. We also want to remember that this week is Wine and Words, and Wine and Words has been a really, really powerful and meaningful way to connect virtually, to talk about various topics and subjects. And in the coming weeks, we're going to have some opportunities to come together. I know that's something that people miss, and we're going to have some opportunities to come together, particularly during the holidays, to just celebrate us as a community. I greet you. I bless you. I see God in you.
Our affirmation for the month of October: reaping a prosperous harvest. My life is filled with God's abundance, expressing as perfect and fabulous life experiences, serving me completely. I allow abundance, prosperity, and well-being to flow into my life. And so it is.
The affirmation for this morning is taken from The Art of Simple Living, 100 Daily Practices from a Japanese Zen Monk for a Lifetime of Calm and Joy by Shumio Masuno. The selection I've chosen is Be Here Now. The you of a moment ago is the past you. Focus on the here and now rather than on the past. As humans, we live only in the moment, in the here and now. So we must train our mind to be present in this very instant. This is the Zen way of thinking. Zen Buddhists like to say, dwell in the three worlds. These three worlds are the past, the present, and the future. In Zen Buddhism, you often hear the names Amida, Shaka, and Muruko. These represent the Buddha in each of these three worlds. If you're wondering how this way of thinking actually works, let's start with our breathing. We inhale and then we exhale. The moment when we inhale is the present, but once we exhale, it has already become the past. To put it another way, when you were reading the preceding pages in this book, that was the you of the past. And when you read the following pages, that will be you in the future. When something bad happens and you're feeling down, try clapping your hands in front of you. In an instant, you can feel better, having been put in a new frame of mind. Like when a movie cuts in to a new scene, there is now a totally different you. What is important is this day, this hour, this moment, living in the here and now.
Hey, 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 here come the announcements.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just have a happy day. Today is a day like no other day. Just think and you'll know that it's true. Days like today should be holidays. So I'm singing this message to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just have a happy day.
The month of October is a time when we recognize many things. Two that are quite important are breast cancer and domestic violence. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. If you need more information, resources, other things about breast cancer, you can go to nationalbreastcancer.org to get information from the National Breast Cancer Foundation's website. It lists symptoms, it lists resources, it lists support groups. There's a lot of information there. In the case of domestic violence, which is something that indeed is very serious, the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 is another resource. You can go to their website, domesticviolence.org, but if it's something that's more immediate, then the hotline I recommend calling. If you know someone who needs these resources, this is an opportunity to pass this information on.
Hi, and welcome to the Heartstream. I'd like to invite you to Wine and Words. It's every other Thursday. We hope to see you there, and we always have a really good time.
We want to extend our congratulations to our friends at Unity Christian Church in Whitehaven for celebrating their 70th anniversary. They've got a number of events that they have in store for us this month. They've invited us, and you'll be able to see the full list of events on our website. But again, congratulations and happy anniversary. We want to say congratulations and also hold the space and prayers for Lily Williams, who is the daughter of our own Reverend Villa Willis, who is now fulfilling one of her dreams and goals, and that is to serve in the Peace Corps. She is currently in South Africa, and we want to remember Lily and say to you, we wish you all the best, to have great experiences, and we look forward to, after your 2-year stint, finding out and hearing about more. I know we'll hear about it throughout the process, but again, congratulations. Our daily affirmative prayer call takes place each and every morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Dial in as one of our prayer team members shares an inspirational reading and then prays for you, all in about 7 minutes. At Open Heart, we believe in the power of affirmative prayer. We don't beg or plead God to do anything, but we set our intention and recognize God expressing itself in, through, and as each and every person. As such, all of these individuals and families that are represented here, we see them healed, we see them comforted, we see them strengthened, we see them encouraged, we see whatever it is that they have a need for and a desire for, and we hold the space for them, knowing it's already done in the mind of God. And so it is. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am richly blessed, creating a greater and greater and greater flow. We have ways in which you can give and support Open Heart through Cash App. Our cash tag is OHSC901. You can go online to our website, OHSC901.com. Click on the word give and contribute there. Or you can text the word give to 615-422-4292. Infinite prosperity is mine to share. I am blessed. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you to all of you who have signed up to support us through Amazon Smile. If you haven't done so, you can do so today.
God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy is my source. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks. For all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need.
Please let me feel inner peace from my center at the center of me. Please let me feel inner peace from my center at the center of me. Please let me feel inner peace from my center at the center of me.
I welcome you to the centering moment. Let us take just a few seconds to breathe in and out. Let us breathe in and out. And in this moment, let us be centered in the truth that we are forever prosperous and one with the unlimited source of all that there is. And let us breathe in and out. And so it is.
Good morning. We have been exploring the theme this month, reaping a prosperous harvest. And on the first Sunday, my first message, I used the P word. I talked about prosperity. And I know that I started out with the idea that so many people, when it comes to religion, when it comes to New Thought, Ancient Wisdom, get a little tight about the word prosperity because it has been exploited, it has been misused. We have this whole category and title of people that are called prosperity preachers, and while many of them do offer principles that are helpful, many have taken advantage of that and enriched themselves often to the detriment of others. And it's just how so often I know that I have been reluctant oftentimes to talk about prosperity and even experience it in my own life just because of those associations. But I made the decision that I was going to be a prosperity preacher in this terms of talking about how we can enrich our lives, how we can have an abundant life, and abundance and prosperity about more than just money, which led to the second week, the M word. While I know that prosperity is not money, money is a part of prosperity, and getting our minds and our attention and our just whole consciousness surrounding money, getting that right, just how vitally important that is. And then on last Sunday, Villa gave us a very powerful message on full of yourself and how we have to see ourselves as being worthy and open and available to prosperity and abundance and all of that it involves. And so today, it's the F word. When I started out this series, I didn't really envision having the P word, the M word, and now the F word, but here we are. It's the way the Spirit very oftentimes moves. But before I get to what the F word is, because I know people are wondering, and I know the graphic that I use to promote this and to share this was going to be the idea, was of a woman holding her hand over her mouth because, I just wanted people to be curious. But before I get to the F word, I want to talk about a few things. A principle that I think is very, very important, that is a part of this entire process that ultimately gets us to the F word. And that is the fact that nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. We know that from science, that anytime that there is a void, anytime there is an empty space, something will fill it. And Catherine Ponder, in her book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, talks about the vacuum effect of prosperity and just how important and how vital it is to know that when we wish to have abundance in our lives, when we wish to have prosperity and well-being and all of that show up, a part of getting that to happen, particularly if we find ourselves stuck, is to create a vacuum. And by creating a vacuum, meaning that if there are things that we have that we no longer need or want, giving them away, getting rid of them. Even relationships with acquaintances and with people that we know, if they're no longer congenial, no longer showing us the kinds of love and the kinds of just happiness and everything else that we once had, then readjusting those. And maybe sometimes we do have to even get rid of those, move on from those. But the vacuum effect of prosperity being very, very important. I know that the idea that when there is an empty space, that it will get filled up is something that a lot of us can relate to. And I also want to say that we have to be intentional about how we clear that space up. I know that Exhibit A in my house is our dining room table. My wife and I sit at the dining room table very often to do our work. She will be on one end, I will be on the other end. We'll have our laptops open, we'll have papers and everything else there to do our work. And that's where we do a lot of our work, at that table. And as such, because that's where we work, it tends to get cluttered. And I know that what happens is after a certain time of it being cluttered, when it gets cleared up, then it's clear. And very quickly, though, it can get cluttered up again. And I know that let me be honest, that when Emma cleans up the clutter, when she cleans up the clutter, I do every now and then, but she's the one who's very diligent about it, and she will remind me. Now, just because I cleared this up doesn't mean you need to come back and fill it up again. But we know that ultimately that happens, that when we start talking about using the vacuum principle of prosperity, we have to understand, intentional, that as we are clearing things out, that what we allow to come into that space to fill it up again. I know in the early years of Open Heart, I just was talking about this principle one day, and there was a woman who was attending then who heard me, and she went home. She looked at her closets in her house, and she realized she had things that she hadn't even worn, still had the price tag on them. So she set about giving those items away. And she found that after she'd done so, that things really moved and bloomed in her life, even to the point where a job that she was in that she finally discovered was not bringing her the joy or anything else that she once had. And I think about the prayer call that we had this morning where Villa read from Oprah about finding jobs that didn't give her that fulfillment and then finding the thing that gave her joy. But this woman, even to the point that after she began giving those things away, and it cleared energy, it cleared space for her, and ultimately she was able to go out on her own and establish her own business and bring a real sense of joy and well-being and of abundance because of that. So the vacuum principle of giving away or of letting go or of releasing. Catherine Ponder again talks in her book about a businessman who found himself very ill, and he'd gone to doctors and he tried to find out the source of his problem. He couldn't find out the source of his problem, and he kept working at it, and nothing seemed to work for him. And he was lying in bed one day. He'd gotten to the point where he couldn't even work because he was so ill. And he started thinking about a relationship that he had with a particular man that he considered him to be a rival, and all of the ill will that he had wished this man over the years, and the grudge that he held against him, and the things that he just continued to think about this man. And as he did so, he asked Spirit to show him what it is that he needed to do, why he was feeling this way. And it came back and said to him that he needed to forgive this man. So here we are, the F word, forgiveness. That once he started to forgive this man and say to his soul, to his spirit, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but once he began that process, he immediately felt better. And as a matter of fact, the next day he was just fine, and he went back to the doctor. The doctor told him, well, whatever it was that was bothering you, whatever it was that had you in this state, is now gone, and you are well. So the F word, forgiveness. Now, in my years in the ministry, probably one of the hardest principles, the hardest things for people to get is the idea of forgiveness. Whenever I've talked about forgiveness, always, afterwards, there are people that will contact me, people that will reach out to me to talk about how they have a very difficult time forgiving. And they think that forgiving means condoning the actions of another. I know that one time I was teaching about forgiveness, and after I finished that, there was a woman who very frantically sought me out, and she was just devastated in the idea of forgiveness because she had been robbed at gunpoint, and she thought that by forgiving the person who had robbed her meant that she had to maybe go to jail where he was and go through this whole thing about forgiving him and all of that. And I said, no, it has nothing to do with that. You're not condoning his actions. You're not saying that what he did to you was okay or anything like that. But forgiveness is simply about releasing the bonds between us and another individual. When we let go, when we begin to take whatever the situation, the circumstance, the relationship might have been, when we release those things, we release those ties that person has had to us. And the really dynamic thing about this whole entire process is that in the act of forgiveness, we can take the time to forgive a person and ask also for forgiveness from people that we might have injured, that we might have held grudges against, that we might have talked about badly, that we might have had unkind thoughts toward or whatever. But the forgiveness process, we can do it in such a way that because we are connected, live in a connected universe, very often the most productive and powerful way to do it is just simply take time to be alone and speak to that person's soul. Speak to that person's soul. Now, I know that people will look at me and say, what? But yes, speak to that person's soul and begin the process of forgiving. If we have to ask them for forgiveness, we can do so. If we need to forgive them, we can do so. Sometimes there is something to be said for being in connection and communication with that person and saying those words to them, I forgive you, or will you forgive me? But very often the dynamics of just simply taking that time. As a matter of fact, Catherine Ponder recommends spending at least 15 minutes a day doing forgiveness work. And I know for myself, I can recall a relationship that I had with a person that it has just gotten so contentious and so just filled with all kinds of unkindness and unkind words and everything else that have been passed between us, and how I took the opportunity one day to sit down and to see this person and to speak within to this person, to speak to their soul and to talk about the injury that I felt and the injury that I know that I had caused this person. And as I continued to do that, I could feel something lifting off of my shoulders and just this whole attitude and this whole feeling. Anytime that person's name came up or I thought about that person, that whole dynamic changed. And so the last time that I interacted with that person, it was very different. As a matter of fact, the person said the words to me that I forgive you. And the thing of it is that we went on with our lives. We didn't communicate after that, didn't connect after that. I would occasionally see on social media posts for this person, about this person, those kinds of things. But I had allowed things to go on in our lives. And just a couple of weeks ago, I saw a notice that this person had transitioned. But I felt at peace because I know that the process that we went through and the way that things happened, it just cleared things and it made other things possible. So the F word, forgiveness, being able to forgive. And when we are able to forgive and we are able also to do the process of being forgiven, it opens a vacuum again, that forgiveness factor. It opens up for us a vacuum where things are able to come in. So our abundance, our well-being, our prosperity, our health, everything else begins to come to us, and we can allow it into our lives because we apply the process of forgiving. And I want to talk about this as well because it's vitally important. You heard me talk about forgiving other people, but one of the things that we have to recognize and realize is that one of the most important acts, if not the most important acts of forgiveness, is to learn to forgive ourselves. Yes, you heard me, learn to forgive ourselves. That whenever I talk about forgiveness, there's a phrase that I learned a long time ago, and I will use it. And oftentimes I remind other people of it, and I have to remind myself of it. And that is simply this: give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Let me say it one more time. Give yourself some grace. Why do I say that? It's because if you want to find the person that is hardest on you, if you want to find the person that is your worst critic, if you want to find the person who thinks very often the worst things possible about you, go take a look in the mirror. Because that is the person, you, me. We are our own worst critic. We say the worst things very often to ourselves about ourselves. We do for ourselves and judge ourselves in ways that other people ultimately never would. We take those things that other people have said or those experiences, we internalize them, and then we turn up the volume to the point that we are our own worst critics. So we have to learn to give ourselves some grace. And the way that we do that is to forgive ourselves. There is an affirmation that for me is important, and I like to use it, and that is, I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. I texted that to somebody just last night. I said, you need to start affirming this to yourself. I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. Because the other factor in all of this is that when we create a void, when we create a vacuum, we have to be intentional about how it gets filled. Because as I mentioned, I use my dining room table again. It's when it gets cleared up, the clutter gets cleaned away and all of that. If I'm not intentional about what goes in place of that, just any old thing can go there. And so if we're not intentional, if we're not, and I'm ending with this, if we're not careful about training our minds, we have to be really, really take control of our minds, because we are not our minds. We are not the thinker. We are the thinker that thinks the thoughts, that makes the things. We are beyond our minds. We are beyond our thoughts. We are that place and space, the divine within that thinks the thoughts, that if we're not careful, then that void that we create gets filled up with other unwanted things again. We're right back at square one. But when we learn ultimately to forgive those around us where that process needs to happen, and then ultimately forgive ourselves, things begin to happen. Things begin to open up. And in domains in our lives that are very important, in our relationships, in our health, in our general well-being, in our spiritual dimension, in all aspects of our lives, things begin to happen because we become deliberate, we become intentional, we become open and available to all that Spirit has for us. We become prosperous and abundant, and we reap a prosperous harvest because we have taken the time to know what it is that we do want and to be open and available to it. So I close with, again, the affirmation: I am loved, I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone, and all is well. Remember that, and so it is.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, gotta let it go. Gotta let it all go. Are you listening? You got to let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is
Yes, I